Welcome, everyone. Follow
Exist
the
in some
Amico
plane of
controller.
existence.
Whoa, he's got the new one.
The upgraded.
Phone or something. Right
Follow the Amico controller. You're getting
Hold on.
very, very sleepy.
that way I feel involved. I don't know what we're doing.
There you go.
I-
What are we doing? I don't know.
That's the most important thing.
We're showing off what we don't have.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Hi.
hey, we're doing giveaways today too. We have a couple things we're going to give away. This week, though, we are going to give away this beautiful
Slightly
shirt.
used.
This beautiful Amico Forever shirt. Now, keep in mind the sizes I have are large, extra large, and 2X large. So if you're not that, maybe wait for the next giveaway because that's the only sizes I have right now. Or give them to a friend that's either smaller or larger. I don't know. But I do have a wheel. I got all the Silly Club members on the wheel, the random wheel of names. So now, mind you, I will need your address to ship this. So if you're not comfortable with that, I'm totally cool with that. So let me know. I got you, Big Block. You're in there, Thomas. What's going on? Let's say I got you guys in there. You're Silly Club members. So you're automatically on. S Mill's on there as well. So anyone else that's not a Silly Club member, let me know right now because there's a million people in chat right now. So just let me know if you want to be in this drawing for this shirt, and I'll get things going in. And yeah, sorry, I'm gonna get some smaller ones. I just don't have any right now. To be honest, though, I do have a small, just regular DJC shirt. So if you want, I could put you in the drawing, Emma, and I could send that out if you win. Because but it's just a regular, just DJ Devastating Just Cause shirt, like my old music shirt. I mean, it's new, but it's it's not
Still has sleeves.
Yeah, and it still has sleeves. So yeah, like I said, if anybody's a large, extra large, or 2XL, I'll put you in on this. Like I said, Emma's a small, so I can throw something in there for her. Oh, no drawing. Okay, cool. That's no problem. Let's see. So how is everybody today? I see everyone in here. Sean, I see TJ. TJ wants to be in the drawing. I'm adding TJ to the wheel right now.
We got all sorts of people in here. I'm trying to get around to saying hi to people.
I'm just going to shout out hi because I can't access the chat through 15
I'm trying, and it's failing.
Hi, people.
Backwards man, I got you, buddy. Got you on the wheel. Let's see. Backwards man. I'm the backwards man.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, I'm about to give up. Hi, guys. Everybody, sorry if you didn't get a personalized hi. I will spend the entire stream typing.
No, I don't have any wristbands, but I will. I'll try to do some Amigo Forever wristbands. Maybe a controller on each wristband. I don't know. I have to figure out something. Also, I might have to ask permission on that too. But
this is the giveaway dry run.
This is the dry one. Dry one or dry one? Wow, I can't talk.
It's definitely dry.
It is. So, like I said, if there's anyone else that wants, so far, here, I'll pull up the wheel so people can see who's on it. Whoops, I guess I have to share it. And then we'll do this later because we're going to talk about some fun stuff. But hold on, let me share this. There it is, random name picker. So if you guys can see that, get this out of here. So whoever, if you guys can see, so far we got PJ Smith, Hasselhoff, Big Block, Metal Torso, Live in the Moment, Edwin, Mike Garcia, Kurt Bradshaw, Game Hyper, Mega Dan, Bacon Ice Cream, Luke's Awakening, Casey Nidell, George Games, Fastback, S Mill, Stacy Cranmer, Atari Creep, Rhea, Thomas Bryant, the original Next Level Gaming, Papa Pete, Go Game Go, TJ, and the Backwards Man. So if there is anyone else, please let me know now, and we'll do that. We'll do that a little bit later on.
Johnny just popped in. Marty McFly just popped in.
Marty McFly.
McFly. Gozer visited me on my Luigi stream the other day. That was kind of cool.
That's here's Johnny. Okay, I see you,
Here's
Johnny.
Johnny once on, yeah.
Here's Johnny. You are in. And Hunter Green would like to enter. Just remember, at the end of this, like if you do enter, I will need a shipping address. So as long as you're cool with that, if you're not, I totally understand. So
yeah, DJC will walk it to an alley and meet you at an undisclosed location.
I like to.
Okay, I already really like Emma. Turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Wheel of morality. Turn.
Hunter Green's in. Okay. Enter me if you would. Haunted Wisp, absolutely. Let me get you in there, buddy. Haunted Wisp is in.
I think Jan wants in on the raffle wheel thing.
Which Jan?
Jan, I got you, Jan.
Yeah, I know.
Is he in there? I thought he was.
I just put him in there now.
Okay, all right.
I don't think so.
Jan's in there now. We worked on it.
All right, so
we're working on it, guys. Calm down.
We're almost up to date. You're going to be doing this again right before we give it a spin. So there'll be an expanded crowd at the time.
Sean, did you want to be in on this drawing? I know you come here a lot. I don't know if you wanted to be part of this shirt. This is for the t-shirt. I've only got the 3 sizes. We'll do a different one for a mug and some other. I got you in there, Jan, by the way. Yes, and Mary Amico missed to you as well, Kurt. All right, I think I'm caught up with everyone on the wheel that wants to be.
Woohoo!
But we'll come back to that. So how is everyone?
Good. A lot of people sick over the last couple of weeks, so in various states of recovery, but all good.
Yeah. I'm on vacation. I'm great.
Oh, you got to be having so much fun then.
I'm having my staycation. We're trying to get the tree decorated. We got a cat today.
Nice.
Our guest cat went home. Her owner came and picked her up. So we were kind of going to pick some stuff up for the dogs, and I was like, "You want to go look at the cats?" And I'm like, "Fine, let's go look at the cats." So we looked at one, and it was one that was like really chatty, really friendly. And I'm like, okay, let's see if she likes us. And she meowed a lot. She came up, she kind of licked my cheek, she purred a lot. We're like, okay, we're gonna take the cat home. So she's kind of hiding and adjusting right now. She's
they all do that. Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. That they out right now.
It's like they pick you though, you know. And I know that's like cliche to say, but it's true. Like a cat will come up to pick you. Like it'll be like, okay, yeah, I like this one. I'll allow it.
She purrs every time we pet her. We put her on a new bed we bought her. She purred right away. She's just not. It's a new house. She's freaking out. We put her in one of those little boxes that they gave us from the pet store. Like 2 minutes on the ride home, she burst out of the box. It's like walking all around the car. She's up on my shoulder, meowing like crazy, looking out the window. I've got like a cat for a hat at one point, and I'm like, oh God, this is going so wrong. Let me just get you to the house.
See, mine was when I brought mine home, he was completely like he was almost paralyzed, shocked that he was getting moved from he didn't know what was happening. Like I opened like the little crate thing, and he just sat there like I had to like pour him out, and he just kind of looked and didn't move. I was like, is he all right? Like, is he in the scared shock?
I yelled at you because I thought I was just going to get a treat, and you just...
he's like, oh, treats. Oh, why do I get random? No, they're putting me in a box. Anyways, he's a little... We'll say he's a rascal. We'll say that right now. Mega Dan 29, the Silly Club member. Wow, and dropping the $4.99 super chat, dude. Thank you so much, DJ Beast Game Studios. Dude, I so appreciate that.
Awesome, Mega Dan.
Let's hope you win this t-shirt. That would be cool. That would be cool. Of course, I want everyone to win it, but we've only got 3. So we're going to do, well, depending on your size, we'll see what we can get you.
We have to send everybody t-shirt strips. It's good. They'll be signed.
We're just going to cut the t-shirt into little strips and send them a piece of the t-shirt. Is that what we're going to do?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just cut them off into pieces every week.
I feel like people are going to be a little slighted, but that's okay.
Steve Chucky says cat fighter. All right. Hey, we're here to please. Marty McFly says that sounds pretty heavy. Atari Creep says once she has a good poo, the cat will feel right at home.
Kurt says I have 7 cats. Now I realize that Cat Fighter game really is.
John says no raffle for me. I'm feeling too lucky, and he wants someone else to win. Well, that was nice of you, man. That was very nice of you.
Yeah, I opted for the panel not to be in the raffle. I didn't think that was a cool thing to do.
I was saying Geeks with Cash is part of the Silly Club, and he said no. He said, gosh darn it, no. He's like, you take me off there right now. I want someone else here to win.
You know, I want somebody in the audience to win it. That's more fun.
I wasn't consulted, but if you want to put me on for like 10 spots, I'm cool with it.
E.T. on the Amico, that's exactly what we're talking. No, it's not.
I feel like our roles got reversed, Rab. Like, the person with cash is supposed to be the greedy SOB.
Not if you got it. Yeah.
Speaking of, I was hugging my dog the other day, and she started choking a little bit. I'm like, okay, maybe Dan's onto something with the forearms. I'll back off. I'm sorry. She's like, it's okay. I love you, Dad.
Where it's very heavy.
Lurker Jones, I love the name. ETN the Amico, no news yet, man. If we have news, we will definitely break it on here. But nothing yet. I feel hopeful though, I'll tell you that. As a tester, I feel hopeful. All right.
I imagine most people who are on the Intellivision mailing list are going to know roughly the same time we do. That would be my expectation. When they know and they're firm on it, and they want people to know, they're going to let people know.
Yeah. There's not really any information they can give us right now about when they expect to be ready to ship. They're trying to get to the point to ship. So when they know, they will blast that out to you.
I would expect them to stay very quiet until they're absolutely sure. One of the critiques that this company's had over the years, and that we've had of them, and that they've had of themselves, is that sometimes they disseminate information too quickly when things aren't completely firmed up.
So yeah, that was the old critique. Now they're too quiet.
I think they're taking steps to try to make sure that they know this is going to be solid before they go. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, the shirt will have sleeves on it.
The shirt will have sleeves so long as he doesn't try it on first, because every time he tries on a shirt, the sleeves just explode off. It's the weirdest thing.
I go like this, they come off, and I'm like, oh man, they're ripped again. I might as well just take them off all the way. Can you do a 5-second review on the Absolutely. I can't do it now, but eventually, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. Oh, Paradox Air wants to know what's the cat's new name.
We named the little kiddo Samus. She was originally named Harmony from the store, but she doesn't answer to it. So we wanted to go with Samus.
Justy in the house. Hey, Justy, you want to be part of the shirt giveaway? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
I have a salad, sweet and tender.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That is
the removed sleeves. It's sleeves as holders for Amico controllers. Absolutely. That's what I'm going to turn all my my cutoff sleeves is what I meant. Oh yeah, that's right. You drank like the water in Houston or something, and something happened. Ugh. Was there like something was poisoned or something? Maybe they were working on there. Ugh.
The world's worst spit take. Sorry.
The new flashback, no, but I know that we're probably going to see old, like they were mentioning old IPs on like new collections and stuff like that. If you're looking for like the older stuff, I always say, I'm going to throw
On
in
systems other than Amico.
Yeah, like your main like big systems and PC.
The main reason I'd like to see another flashback is because you might get a USB and television controller out of it.
That would be helpful. That would work with the PC and Switch and Xbox and that's what I was going to say too. Did Jeff win the No, Jeff didn't win. Papa Pete won at 99.50 in that hard Defender game, that weird port on the Intellivision. PM Fiora, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Hey, PM. Me and him were having a rather lively discussion on my Evolution of Platformers video, and I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't just about Mario. Hang on. Now, I put a lot of different games in here. Let's talk about this.
Speaking of talk, so
this Carpenter guy
today we really wanted to talk about was when it came crashing down, which is what the thumbnail said. No, we're not talking about the Amico. We're talking about the game crash of '83. What became, how this started, what it was, and I'll start I'll do a little intro for it, then I'll turn it over to these guys here. But I had I think what mainly caused this, I mean, I don't know for sure. I mean, I'm not, or when or how it happened, but
like
do you have a running theory
of that now?
I have a theory.
He's really enamored with that clip.
I love it because it's like that quick.
Let's talk about the board game crash of 1883.
Yeah. Well, I think it started with a lot of, obviously there was so much going on. There was video games in the arcades. There's video game systems. There was competing video game systems, and they're competing so bad that you had programmers trying to make a decent game. And I think we've even talked about this when we go back to homebrews and go, look what happens when you spend a year on a game and you take everything the system and the software and the hardware working together has to offer, and you see these great homebrews for Intellivision. Well, back then they were like especially with like Atari's ET, they're like, he's like, well, I need 4 or 5 more months to do this. Well, it comes out and we need to be done in 3 weeks. And you're like,
actually, he jumped on that. He actually jumped on that and said he could do it. There's a documentary on this on Netflix where they talk about the games that made us, and one of the ones they talked about was ET. And he's like, they came to me and said, well, we need this game. And he's like, sure, I can do that. And they go, well, the clip is we need it by Christmas. And he knew it was Spielberg and he knew it was ET. And he goes, done. I can do it. I can do it. Right. And he beat his head against it during the whole time. He really put in a lot of time on it. But, I mean, there's no getting around it. 3 weeks, it was like 3 weeks or what, 3 months? No, it had to have been like less than a month. Because you had entire games getting built in 3 months that were rock solid around that time. The games just weren't as complicated. They didn't take as long to build. There wasn't as much as that you could do,
Uh-oh. We lost Rab.
We did lose Rab.
Well, he's not going to be in the giveaway now. No, he never was. I
think you already put him in like 15 times. I mean, come on.
Television guy back? What's he doing? Had to do it. Yeah, I think it was just everything, but I think it was a lot with the, and I know Rab's got a lot of info on this too. I'm sure he'll be back.
It wasn't a singular game that caused the crash. There was a lot of stuff that went on. But I don't really want to go too deep into it until Rab's here, because Rab has a lot of points, and sometimes we get into back and forth discussions on this.
Yeah, it looks like they got him. We started talking about ET. And then the
FBI came in with their walkie-talkies and got him. Didn't they go through and like change all the guns out on ET for like walkie-talkies or something stupid?
You know what I always wondered, like in Back to the Future, when they were talking on walkie-talkies. Well, he did have some weird batteries taped around him too, like he could. But I was like he's all the way over by the DeLorean at the beginning of Lion Estates, and like Doc's over by like fixing something at the clock tower. I'm like, how does a walkie-talkie go that far? Either that or they're literally up the street from each other. Like,
maybe it's Doc Brown and he has some
if
sort
he
of
can
like
make a time machine,
advanced,
I guess he can make some good walkie-talkies. So I don't even know what I would. While North America's facing the video game crash, in the UK we had the new C64s, the X Spectrum, and Amstrad CPC.
Yeah,
we saw no crash.
Yeah, one of the things before
Different
we get too
market,
deep,
too.
one of the things we get too deep into this, Europe and Japan never saw any kind of crash. Like, it did not happen there. This was a United States only thing, and that's because we were so heavily invested in home consoles. The European market was more into PC gaming than they were console gaming. Consoles weren't as big of a thing at the time, right around the time of the crash. It's not to say they didn't have them. It just wasn't like the sheer bulk of their market. There were plenty of PC gamers. Japan was heavily fixated on arcades, even back in the early 80s. They were really, really, really big into their arcade. And arcade games continued to go strong.
Racing.
So
Hey, what happened?
They never had a crash.
You thought ET got you.
I thought it was the FBI with the walkie-talkies that got changed out for it in the special edition of ET. I thought the walkie-talkies got you, sir.
This is true, though. Indie Racing Net says ET was 10,000% responsible for Reese's Pieces sales to shoot through the roof, though.
Actually, that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, they did have
was doing okay until it got tied in with ET, and then it did really well.
Yeah, commercial tie-ins pay off.
Yeah, you might have said exactly. Atomic Age Gamer says, because I was wondering how did these walkie-talkies work so far? Trying to fill in plot holes of Back to the Future now, but yeah, no, maybe old Doc Brown set up repeaters on the handheld radios for the handheld radios.
So I missed a little bit, but Chuck, did you say why we're?
Yeah, we were just talking about what maybe it was the games, and like I was saying, a lot of the games were rushed. And what was your take on what actually happened on when that?
Oh, there's so much. There's so much.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of why we wanted to make a whole episode about it. Because we've been celebrating Atari for the past couple of months, their 50th celebration and all that fun that's come up. And we're playing these old games pretty regularly. And you're playing and competing with Jeff and Pete on the Monday show. But it is, we're a couple hours from the 40th anniversary of the start of the crash when Atari's financials came out. And it was kind of that, I wouldn't say canary in a coal mine moment. I would say, that part of the mine that has like the vein of gold that we've hit and we've been hitting it. And now it's all collapsed. It's that moment in the mine when Atari's financials...
Tail end of the gold rush, basically.
Yeah. When they're when Warner Communications had to release their financials and let the world know that Atari was having some significant troubles. And it was the start of the whole collapse that we saw in '83. And there's all sorts of theories and all sorts of stuff that's out there. E.T. is one of them, kind of the symbol of the crash. And, a lot of that stuff, if you go and look up, the 1983 video game crash on Wikipedia, it's got like 4 reasons there. And it's very interesting kind of why some things are picked and other things kind of get, looked over. So it's one of those things that there's no simple answer. I think it's pretty complex and, we can kind of chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, right. Me and you had a couple of conversations about this over the time period. One when I was actually doing my own video on this that I put out on my game history channel. And there were some obvious things that were there. And there were some not so obvious things there. And there's a couple things that we thought about, I want to say during the interim, that
he does.
That I think we're kind of, what? I'm sorry, I missed the pop-up.
They say I look like Rick Steiner.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh yeah, the landfill was real. There you go.
Oh no, the landfill's absolutely real.
Yes, it was.
That's fucking great, dude. Like if you go up and actually pick a cartridge out of the sand, like an ET brand new in box.
I know people tried to say that wasn't real, but I forget what it was. Well, there was a TV station that actually went out and did some digging in there, and lo and behold, they pulled up a ton of ET cartridges and other games that had just gotten dumped.
Yeah,
it was cheaper to dump them than it was to continue to store them.
It wasn't
at the time.
it wasn't a question of cheaper. It's a question of how you write them off. And Atari was on,
Yeah.
the hold for how do you destroy them? You don't go and burn a bunch of games. That is, you release a bunch of chemicals into the air and stuff, and you would be, probably liable for some sort of environmental hazards that you're doing there. So you have a bunch of surplus stock that you can't sell. You don't want to hold on to because it's a loss. So they basically kind of worked around that they could bury it, and it would be the cheapest solution to get rid of all that extra stock and move it out. Because one of the problems that they had was just too much product on the shelves throughout the entirety of 1983, much of 1982, and even into like 1984 and 85. I still have some like in television games from like 1986 that have like the original like KB Toys receipt. There's like $1.99. Stuff was still on the shelves back in like 86. So it took a long time to clear out all of that excess inventory because there was so much of it.
Well, and part of that came about because Atari started not treating its workers quite so well. And so a lot of them got poached by other companies that wanted to do startups or make their own consoles. And so a lot of this knowledge, since they weren't really signed to non-competes back in the day, because it's a brand new industry for the most part, relatively new anyway, that had exploded, went off to work for these other competitors that either started making their own consoles or started their own development houses. Atari tried to quickly turn around and sue them for stealing intellectual property.
Trade secrets.
Trade secrets. And that got shut down by the courts, saying you can't completely lock this down this way. This isn't correct.
Well, like Activision settled. It was cheaper for them to settle and move on to making the games. And Atari would do the same. Atari did the same thing with Magnavox. They had settled with Ralph Baer and Magnavox because it was cheaper for them to then make the machines, pay the licensing fee. It worked out fantastic for them in the end. Activision, for instance, wouldn't settle, and they ended up owing like 8 million, 6 million, some number of millions to Magnavox in the late 80s. And that ultimately drove them to bankruptcy because they couldn't bear those costs after Activision being the one video game company in the 80s that barely survived this whole mess without, and by barely survived, I mean, they went under new ownership. They changed their name. They changed their focus. They changed everything. They bought other companies and tried to focus more on like business software. They still ended up going to bankruptcy because, they wouldn't take a license from Magnavox and admit that they were wrong for doing what they were doing, because Magnavox had insanely vague patents on what a video game was. Basically, like any interaction that takes place on a screen with a ball and another object, Magnavox invented that. That's their patent, and it's
and they also had the backing of Philips at the time, which wasn't really well known in the States, but was huge globally.
Well, North American Philips was.
They had pretty deep pockets at the time.
That was Norelco. That was
they eventually
several appliances.
They got Norelco. There was another.
Well,
Philips
Norelco was their
brand.
brand.
Yeah.
Of shavers in North America.
Yeah, because they couldn't use Philips initially because there was some sort of brand confusion. They eventually bought that company out.
Yeah, there's
to own the Philips name even in the States, but they were always known as like Philips outside the States.
Yeah.
Now,
great screwdriver debate.
Haunted Wisp says, and I want to piggyback kind of off this question.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you think it will happen again with the recession and the price increases? And I want to kind of piggyback off on that. And what do you guys think as far as how big the video game companies are these days? I mean, back then, I don't even think Atari, being one of the biggest, was as big as Sony or Microsoft is now, let alone Nintendo. I mean,
Atari, and I'm not going to be totally unapologetic about this. Atari, through its entire inception, is kind of a poop show. They were a mess. They didn't understand the industry because it was brand new. There had only been 2 consoles before they came into the market. There had been the Magnavox Odyssey and the Fairchild Channel F before they came out. And then when they
RCA Studio 2.
Okay, RCA Studio 2. And then when they came in, they kind of shook up the market, but it took them a couple of years to do it because they didn't know how to market the thing. A lot of the time, the VCS was just kind of sitting on the shelves until Time Warner got involved and pushed it. And then it started to sell. And then they had a ton of back catalog that they had to sell. They had a ton of stock. So it wasn't really moving the way they thought it was going to move initially. And then they were always kind of flip-flopping between, are we going to do, and was it Jack Tramiel came in at one point and took him over, and he was big for the Commodore 64. And so he wanted to be a PC company, so they fell behind and didn't get the 5200 out in time when the television was out, ColecoVision was coming out. Then that finally came out, but it didn't have backwards compatibility with the 2600 like the other two had done. Then the 7800 came out, like, it came out before the NES technically, but only in California. It didn't get a wide release until after the NES was already out on the market. They're kind of a litany of missed opportunities. Like, they had all the tools there. They just failed to execute them at the right times to really turn a huge profit at any given point. So they sort of struggled a lot. Now, the modern day companies, this is all kind of a science now because we've been living with this industry since 1967, I want to say, is when the round box was out. That came out like 72. Later, John. So, we're looking at like over 30 years of like video games now, right? And it's kind of surprising to think that this industry's just been around just that little bit of time. Because look at how much has happened. The fact that it moves so quick was one of Atari's biggest problems and the market's biggest problem. Technology moved too fast. There was no way for Atari to know this was going to do this. There was no way for them to keep up. It's just impossible for them to keep up.
They couldn't keep up with Pong. They couldn't keep up with the home consoles. They couldn't keep up with the Pong clones or the system on its chips.
Pong clones
they couldn't keep up with the home programmables that launched and the computers that were coming out. They couldn't keep up with the other companies reverse engineering their product. So it was always a question of growing pains for Atari. It was always a question of, Atari never big enough to take full advantage of that market. And that's a big part of that story. Yeah.
Now, as far as this being able to happen again, I have some thoughts on that and it really depends on what the player base is willing to put up with, right? Because we're starting to see a trend now that we've seen before. Leading up to 83, you have incomplete games, you have broken games, you have all this different hardware, you have tons of micro consoles, you have tons of different ecosystems, tons of different platforms out on the market. What you don't have is more major players. You don't have quite as many players as you had in 83. You did in the 90s, but the 90s, the iron was just like hotter than it had ever been, right? You had everybody jumping in because the market was finally starting to mature to a point to where people were taking major notice. It was starting to move out of a niche hobby into a mainstream hobby. Yeah. And Sega was a big part of that. Having changed the age range of the way people were really approaching it, because for a while after Nintendo took over, it was really considered more of like a kid's thing, whereas Atari was marketing it more for adults when they first came out. So it went from being like a children's toy, because they literally put it in the toy department. They didn't put it in electronics department, to being more electronics department and being more of a mature age range, right? They were starting to hit the teenagers, the young adults, more grown-ups were starting to pay attention to it and want it as well, things of that nature. Now we're starting to see the fact that everything's kind of cyclical. And by that, I mean, you've got your Assassin's Creed chain, you've got your Call of Duty, you got your Battlefield. You got all these games that come out that are so big and so complex that you can only hold 3, 4, 5 of them on your drive, even with a terabyte drive sometimes. So you don't have any space. You don't really own any of it because most of it's downloaded digitally. I think Call of Duty only had 2 gig of data on the disc, and the rest was a download. So you didn't even have most of your game on the disc. So now you don't own the games. Games are coming out are more repetitive and more the same. The quality control is getting less and less. Most things need massive day one patches. They need months and months of patches going through the life cycle of the game. A lot of the player base starts to drop off and move off to a different game. You don't have the same level of creativity because they're afraid of moving into new territories and new game types because they know what works and they know what makes them money, and they can't take any kind of potential risk and having any kind of loss because they have shareholders to answer to. And so we're kind of looking at the market getting really stagnant. The console market itself has gotten stagnant. You've got three players, the same three players you've had for a while. You've had a couple people attempt to get in from time to time, but they don't really go anywhere at all. The Ouya being like the last example I can recall that came out that completely fell. And then the VCS, which is more of a
computer.
Google Stadia, Amazon Luna, Apple Arcade.
Yeah. Well, Apple
iOS.
Arcade is more of a service. That's not really a console. That works on their platform, right? Wherever their platform happens to be.
Microsoft may be taking that same view.
And Microsoft is definitely taking the same view with the Game Pass. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They want the games to be a service, like a monthly service-based thing.
I will just throw in very quickly. I think a crash like 83 is not imminent. I think there are some trends that we should be concerned of, but I would say there's been a lot of shakeouts in the industry in 74, 77, 78, 83, 85. Someone mentioned earlier about like the whole of the industry kind of falling with the arcades and the home computers falling as well. In the 90s, you know, the entirety of the home video game console and the arcade industry was very much shaken, and they didn't really come back around until the N64 really kind of came in and sort of held down that low market as we move towards the Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 and kind of reigniting that later 90s market. I don't think it would be like 83, but I could see downturns. I could see some of these players move towards more sameness and more formulaic and less focus on the hardware and less focus on this is games and more like this is just one more branch of entertainment and we do a lot of it and maybe less of their focus, and it diminishes in that way.
Yeah, I don't think it'll particularly crash, and then I want to get to this question that we have.
Yeah,
because I see it and I want to talk about it.
Yeah. It's very interesting because you never know. Like, because Famicom, if Nintendo didn't come in the way it did, then it wouldn't it almost would have gotten lost.
Actually, they tried to get it in '83, but we'll get
Atari.
to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
In just a second. The other reason I don't think we're going to have another major crash quite like we did before is because we have a more global economy now. You have to remember the scene in 1983 wasn't as interconnected a global economy as we have today, right?
Yeah.
Now we have the entire world kind of tied to each country's own ecosystem of economy and what they produce and what they supply. So if you have one player or one market start to crash, it starts to have a ripple effect across the world. The world won't have that, right? There will be people that will step in. There will be governments that step in. There'll be various different things that happen to try to keep these things afloat because too many jobs, too many markets, too much manufacturing, too much of people's livelihood could take other aspects down by it failing as badly as it did then. Then everything was more isolated. The United States was not as tied to Europe. It wasn't tied to China at all. It was barely tied to Japan at the time. It was kind of an isolated market. So it's a completely different story than it is today. So I don't think it can do that. And to go into the NES question, they actually tried to launch the NES in 1983. Atari was supposed to produce it. They had some issues with Donkey Kong showing up on the ColecoVision in a certain way when it was supposed to be licensed to Atari specifically.
It showed up on the Coleco
Atari
Atom
to tell them to shove off. And so it took them another 2 years to start, 2 to 3 years, because I think it was like 81, 82, they were working with Atari. Then the crash happened. And then they started renaming and rebranding and retheorizing the NES itself, not calling it a console, but calling it an entertainment system to make it not look like a game console because they had such a bad stigma here. They also introduced Rob specifically to make it look more like a toy, like a robot toy for kids.
Yeah.
To make it appeal as more of a toy so that parents would be more apt to buy in. That's also why the seal of approval popped in, because one of the major head of Atari at the time, whose name is eluding me, I can't remember who was running at the time.
Ray Kassar?
Kassar basically said, look, Atari had no quality control. They had no oversight, no quality control, nobody looking at the games that were coming out of the console. Anybody could put anything on the console. And that was their major mistake.
Well, I think Hiroshi Yamauchi of Nintendo also would say that as well, that Nintendo didn't want to make the same mistake that Atari did because they didn't have quality control. Everyone was putting everything on Atari, and that wasn't Atari's fault. They never thought that the system would be reverse engineered and figured out how to put the games on it when they were making it back in 77. Back when they were making it, they didn't expect the VCS to last into 82, 83, 84. They assumed that it would be there for a couple of years. When they made the Atari 400 and 800, they thought that was going to be the successor to the 2600. And it took a long time to stew. And then Atari got hot with the 2600 and everybody was buying them. And, all of these companies figured out through, the work of Jerry Lawson from Fairchild, through the work of David Crane with Activision. Several people were reverse engineering the VCS and figuring out how to get their games on it. And it exploded.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm having to deal with something in chat. My apologies.
I got it.
So there are a lot of reasons for the crash. Okay, as far as the United States go, because on top of having 3 to 5 consoles out on the market and Atari not being able to keep up, and still being the major shareholder in main console manufacturer, for lack of a better word, you would think with both the ColecoVision and the Intellivision out, the market would have stabilized and been able to handle a player going out. But Atari was still the major player in the space.
Well, it was bad
time.
It was bad timing for Coleco. They were really what was considered the next generation. I mean, when you look at the ColecoVision, it is not that different from the NES or the Sega Master System. The Master System and the SG-1000 was based on the ColecoVision. Nintendo was supposed to go in with Coleco. That's how they got, part of getting Donkey Kong and getting that exclusive license to Donkey Kong on consoles, not on computers. And that's what Nintendo was so mad at ColecoVision or Coleco for violating that license, because they had licensed to Atari that Atari could put Donkey Kong on computers, and Atari was thinking that
and
Nintendo
the ColecoVision made an attachment that made the ColecoVision into a computer.
Well, it was on the Atom, so so they were playing on. So it was the Atari saw that, and Atari thought they were being backstabbed by Coleco, and that whole deal fell apart. But yeah, the Coleco just entered too late. They entered fall of 82, and they sold out. I think they made like 500,000 units, and they sold out of all of them that year. The next year they made over 1 million. They sold out. But they're coming online when all of these games are being discounted for like $3 each. Are you going to buy a ColecoVision because it looks pretty, or you already have your Atari and the games are $3 and you can get like 20 of them for Christmas or Hanukkah and just blow your kid's mind? You go with the, guess who really delivered this year, Johnny? And you get them as many presents
Oddly,
as possible.
my family had the ColecoVision.
We did as well, just not. We got it, I think, around 84, 85. So it would be like right as it was being clearanced. My parents
got it. They probably got it when it started going into clearance. Because I remember going into like Sears or something like that and just seeing bins of games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you remember the end of it, the end of it was like there was $50 commercials for Atari 2600.
Yeah.
That was their last marketing thing, was under $50, just $50.
Well, when Tramiel brought it back, the Atari Junior, I mean, they started at I think like $50, and the 7800 was like $80 or $70, and by the late 80s, I think it was like $35 for a 2600. So they sold 30 million of them, but at the height of when people were actually playing Atari in the heyday before the crash or during the crash, I think it was probably like 15 to 20 million out there. So a bunch of people bought them on the after the fact.
Yeah. You also had a pretty uneducated consumer base at the time. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean, the technology's new and it's moving super fast. So you also had variations on the same Atari console.
I disagree.
Marketed as like Sears versions or whatever version that played the 2600 games. It was the same console. You had all the Pong machines. You had Stunt Cycle. You had all these like ones that had like between 2 and like 10 or 12 games on them that were almost marketed as home consoles, when what they were more like the mini consoles that we have today, right? Or single-use machines that would plug in that you'd be able to play things on top of all these consoles. And the consumer in that day and age, given the fact that the market's so new, didn't know how to distinguish any of these from each other, right? You still had that problem today. I remember seeing people in the stores when the Wii U came out asking why they'd need to spend another $300 on essentially what's a tablet for their Wii. Well, that's not the case. It was a brand new console.
I was going to say, you look at the Wii U. You look at the base unit for the Wii U. It looks just like the Wii. You look at it. It says Wii, and then it has like, it looks like a power button. It doesn't even look like the letter U. So if you look like it, it looks like a tablet, so that you can draw as an addendum to your existing console. There's a lot of room for confusion for people who are not dialed in. Right. And I think that was the case back then as well.
And that was worse back then.
But I wouldn't say that it was an uneducated market, because I think people were savvy enough to understand some stuff. They just didn't know right away, just like they don't know right away now. And if you miss your initial hype train, you might not make those sales. You might flounder. You might be the 5,200 and have initial poor sales. And then how are you going to recover from that? You're already kind of branded as a loser. You're branded as, you know, this system that nobody wants, and investors are not impressed. So they back off, and you go back to the drawing board and you try something else. And I think we still do that to this day.
Yeah. And you had the computer market heavily marketing against the console market at that time too. That was another factor, because you had the computers like, well, why buy a console when you can buy like the Amstrad or whatever, and it'll play games, plus it'll do all this productive software for mom and dad kind of thing going on.
Well, that's how they were marketed. But I mean, price-wise, initially, computers were not competing with video games. And I think the big competition or the big confusion on computers in this market was that the manufacturers, the Ataris, the Mattels with Aquarius, the Colecos with the Atom, all of these companies assumed computers would be the way forward. So they were, Commodore. I mean, the VIC-20 was like a consoleized computer, but they weren't invested in video games like the audience. But if you think about the audience, computers of the early 1980s were very difficult to use. Yes, maybe you can plug in a cart into a Commodore 64, but I'm not going to know all of the operation procedures to run an exe file or whatever when I turn on a computer. I'm not a computer hobbyist or enthusiast. I don't have that information that's readily available. I prefer plug and play. So most of my experiences with a lot of these computers are just give me the guide that tells me how I can play this game, and tell me exactly what I need to type in so I can play this game. And, you know, if a customer has to take 10 steps to play that game, they're like, no, thank you. I'll just take the Atari and plug it in and I can play it. So I think the market enjoys the plug and play nature of a console. The manufacturers,
they still do. That's why consoles still outsell computers.
I mean, that's why
even though it's gotten just as simple as just install a game, boot it up, and run it, because thanks primarily to Steam, it's still considered like too complicated and too full of cheaters and this, that, and the other. There's a really bad stigma around PC gaming in a lot of ways that's held on from earlier years. It's not necessarily quite so true now, but it's still there.
Oh, it's totally there. It's totally there. When you walk away from our generation or younger generations, when you look at, anyone that works in more like a human services industry or works in more of like a fast food industry, this is as much of a computer as we use nowadays. So a lot of people don't have much computer exposure unless their jobs explicitly needs a computer. I mean, a lot of people, they're fine with just what they can use on their phone or their tablet or whatever their work trains them to do. We're moving away from computers. We're losing that knowledge that maybe more of the general public had in the 90s, early 2000s. That's
actually been part of that's a whole other discussion we can have, is the dumbing down of the world when it comes to computing knowledge. Primarily thanks to things like Alexa and Apple products and stuff like that, where a lot of the knowledge of how you use the thing and what you have to do when there's a problem is just unplug it and plug it back in again. That's literally all you can do to troubleshoot. Once you can interact with it, to learn how it works to be able to do anything with it. And it's a big knowledge sink that is going to eventually, I feel like, be a problem.
Load star, comma 8, comma 1.
A Commodore fan.
That was Commodore.
Yes.
Vic 20 and Commodore 64. That was like when you loaded Ghostbusters. I remember having to do that all the time.
And the 128.
Oh man, that just brings back some memories. Comma 8, comma 1. Like, why did they? What a weird way. Like, they couldn't have somehow just made you just hit load Ghostbusters or load, Mr. Do or load, nope. Comma 8.
I think a lot of that was to choose what drive it was going to load from, and then the other one for like what peripheral you were going to use as well. And it was just shorthand instead of it trying to intuitively figure out what you're going to do and configure things. The computers weren't advanced yet. The knowledge wasn't there yet. and the memory wasn't there yet to be able to do it that way.
User interfaces and GUIs were not commonplace in the world then. And the computers were evolving from a hobbyist market. And if you're a hobbyist, you understand how this stuff works. You make something, you make it for other people just like you to understand. If you type in stuff, if you know programming, if you know a little bit of coding, or you know a couple of operation procedures on how the computer works, you can make it do all these fun things. They just presume other people are going to know that. So that becomes kind of the insider language for people who love computers and are enthusiasts. The rest of the general public has no idea why they're doing that stuff, what any of that stuff is. They just type it, it makes it happen, and they're frustrated that they have to do that and they can't just put it in.
Vic 20 with System 32,592.
So yeah, there was a lot going on in that market today, and there's almost more going on the market today. When you start looking at today, now you have this almost competing with consoles, computers.
Oh yeah,
it is competing.
Yeah, if you look at competing, whether you believe it or not, it is.
If you look at the video game industry since 2008, the growth has all been in mobile and tablets.
Yeah, it's massive in mobile.
The size of the gaming market that plays on a home console has maintained a pretty steady amount for the past 15 years. And all the growth is here.
Yeah, because it's always with you. You can usually get like one of those like backbones that just plugs into it, that gives you a controller on the go, that kind of thing. You can disconnect it. You can throw it in your backpack. You can put it in your pocket. You can do whatever with it. It's easy to kind of maneuver around and take it wherever you're going. If you need to send it to TV, you can do like AirPlay with this. I'm sure there's an equivalent for like the Android market and things like that. And it becomes an easy, accessible way. That's why Apple Arcade, while I'm still not subscribed to it, is not really that laughable, right? When you start thinking about it, because you can play it on your Apple TV. You can shut it down. You can bring it up. You can play it on your phone. You can play it while you're waiting in line. You can play it while you're sitting in the office. You come home. You pull it up on your Apple TV or Aircast your phone, and there you go, right?
And those games are curated to those devices. I mean, Apple understands most people are not engaging with their games using a keyboard or using a controller, so most of those games have touchscreen controls that work with your iPad, with your phone. That's 90% of their audience.
Right. And Amico brings up a question: what do you think 64-bit Intellivision's games would have been like? I don't know. It would be curious to see where they would have gone with the Intellivision if it had made it through the crash and continued to go. Would we still be talking about Night Stalker with their Night Stalker and Clouding Mountain and all these? Would those have still been part of the legacy, or would they have moved on from that? And that would have been like, old school Intellivision, and they would have moved more towards something more akin to like the N64 or the PlayStation, where it was kind of a hybrid between 3D and 2D graphics, right?
Yeah. It's hard to...
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's hard to say because, several of the Blue Sky Rangers did continue on with it until 90. And, they were remaking some of those games, skiing and updated versions of some of their basic games. Yeah. But they really didn't do much with the licenses or updating the franchises until later. And I don't think Atari did much with their licenses either until probably the 90s, after they'd kind of run out of ideas. You kind of seen an updated version on the 7800 or maybe like a Tempest 2000, but that was the exception, not the rule. And I just don't think there were many players out there that were tapping into those classic libraries. I think at the time they probably looked at that and thought, okay, that was the old way. We're very fascinated by the move to 3D, the move to, fighting games and shoot 'em ups and all of this other flashy stuff that's coming out at the time. All of these programmers that migrated to other development studios that had their start at Intellivision and Atari, they weren't necessarily going back to that old well. They were moving on to new, shinier objects.
Yeah.
Cotton Dad Comics says, was the Intellivision 3 ever marketed? Now they had, I don't think it ever was fully publicly marketed, but they did have ads in some magazines, and they did have photos or mock-ups of it. I don't know.
The trade magazines that covered video games, like a Video Game Monthly or something, would have they had a ad listing of the what to expect of the upcoming Intellivision 3, and that's where we saw a couple of those games.
Yeah, I remember seeing like the controller with the joystick on it, which was the still had the number pad. But yeah, I remember seeing that. That was about it, and then after that, it was just nothing.
Okay, apparently I was trying to say welcome Skull and Andy Pad, the Silly Club thing, and then I kept screwing it up, and then my last message didn't go. So, sorry, my bad. I tried.
Hey, Skull
Welcome,
Andy Pad,
new guy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very nice of you, Skull Andy Pad. I used to know a guy that was just Skull and Pad, but now he's Skull Andy Pad. Thank you so much.
So you apparently have an army now? Is that what you're doing? Is you're forming an army?
I am forming an army. I try to do it very low key.
On the down low?
I say welcome to the Silly Club, and I'm like, get ready, guys.
It's just like a Salvation Army. You got to ring a bell outside of like a 7-Eleven.
I've just got this image of them all face painting like juggalos as they go into battle or something.
You're pretty cool. I mean, hey, I'm pretty good with the pen and the makeup. It says Atari put out a lot of games and old franchises. They pushed Pitfall, like the Mayan Adventure, really hard, and then remakes of stuff like Centipede. Yeah, they did do a lot of remakes: Space Invaders, Centipedes, Pitfall.
Honestly, that was one of Atari's downfalls, in my opinion. Is like when you look at the 2600, you look at the 5200, and you look at the 7800. There's at least like 20 or 30 games that are the same game, just with better graphics.
Well, yeah.
It's literally the same game.
The 400, the 800, the 50, that was part of the 5200. Why I get this, it's going to have a prettier version of it, but you're fine with the version of Centipede that you have on the 2600. You're fine with the version of Defender. You don't necessarily need the updated version. It's okay.
Yeah, if you wanted to add new mechanics, they're called Centipede 2 or Centipede 3, and do something new and different with it, add new enemies, new stages, things like that. That would have been fine, but they didn't do that.
Yeah. Activision actually did utilize their old library, and when they did, they were basically, fending off bankruptcy or trying to emerge from bankruptcy. Like, what do we have? What can we use? And they went back to like Pitfall, the Mayan Adventure, and they went back with a couple of their other games. They had bought XCOM, so they went back to those licenses as well. I think Atari did not really go back to use too much of, there was a couple of games they put on the 7800 that was not too much of an update, but I don't think they really kind of heavily went into their old back library until at least like the mid 90s. I think there was a good period of time. So if we're talking about like a 64-bit, and I'm thinking like, 95, 96, that to me is like when I think of these companies, when I see Atari going back and put like, here's our version of Missile Command, and we're reimagining it on PlayStation, and it's going to be in 3D, or here's Space Invaders, and we're reimagining it. It seemed kind of like there was a couple things, but it didn't seem like it was a trendy thing to do until that point. So that's kind of the first time.
Ninja Golf is all I want to know. Because ever since I've seen that game on the 7800, I've been fascinated by that game. It just looks
I've never played that. I know of it, but
amazing to me. It's so goofy, stupid. And I'm like,
give me some Samurai Bocce or something. You can just
why not? Casey Nidell, Silly Club member, amazing Silly Club member, saying he just wanted to say Silly Club members do rule, and if you haven't joined, hit the join button now. And thank you for the super chat. You are amazing as always, and it's always good to have you here as part of this discussion and for every show. Thank you so much.
See, Atari creeps with me on the Ninja Golf thing. Like, I feel like if you're going to do like a recharge or something like that, why not go to Ninja Golf? Like, somebody go Ninja Golf for me, please. I don't know. I still need to find a way to play that one, just because every time I see it, I chuckle and go, I really need to sit down and play this one day.
Was that an Atari license or was that
I don't know.
third party?
I don't know.
I want to play Munchman now. He's talking about that Texas Instruments computer. I'm like, I want to play Munchman. I want really right after we're done here.
That one slipped by me.
It was reverse Pac-Man. He basically pooped out the trail instead of eating the dots.
Hey, it's not to say that the 7800 and the 5200 didn't have a lot of good games in their library. I'm certain they did. I'm not like an Atari aficionado, so like I know the highlights, I know kind of what happened here and there, and things like that as far as the company goes, right? As far as what they were trying to do, as far as like the hits and misses of things that happened as they sort of constantly changed management over the years, right?
Crystal Castle's recharged. So.
I mean, Nolan Bushnell's almost as well known for making Chuck E. Cheese these days as he is for Atari. Oh. I mean, that was his next big thing after Atari.
Dude, they ripped all the animatronics out of every Chuck E. Cheese. I'm like, that's not a good idea. Like, the whole reason you go there is to eat pizza and watch them creepily come to life and haunt your nightmares. And now there's just like a TV screen on the floor that you can dance on.
Now we have Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not sure it's okay for kids to see that anymore. Five Nights at Freddy's, after kids are playing that, are going, no, all the no.
Was the KFC console released?
No, it was not. I know I just jumped
released,
yes.
As far as I know.
That is like, I want one.
But that's one of the things when people are talking about the crash and they're like, can you believe they did a stupid game like Chase the Chuck Wagon? And I'm like, Quaker Oats was a video game. And like, yes, because we have the KFC console, because we have Denny's with Hashtroids or or what was it, Cenepup, or what was the other one they did?
They had a Chex Man version. It was like a version of Doom with Chex.
Yeah.
There was all sorts. There, Pepsi Man was
Pepsi
another
Man.
like endless runner game.
Awful.
Pepsi Invaders, Yo-Noid.
Yeah, all sorts of goofy stuff, man. And that all happened on like PlayStation and up.
Yep.
So there's freaking Yo-Noid was on the NES.
The California Raisins.
Hey, if you saved up all your Kool-Aid
Cool Spot.
points, you could turn in to get an Intellivision Kool-Aid Man.
Oh yeah.
And then when I played it, I went, oh no.
So there's always been stuff like that in the industry, man. If somebody's got enough money and they want to
it's a promotional tie-in.
Somebody's gonna make it.
Right.
You know?
Right. But I just wanted I wanted to stress, like, these are not the games that brought down video games in the 80s. This is something we've always had. We've always had shovelware. We've always had bad games. We've always had, kind of games on the fringe like this. If you go onto eBay now, it's not like you're going to find a bunch of like Chase the Chuck Wagons and realize like, oh, there must have been like 70 million of these and that's what broke the back of the gaming industry. It's like, no, if you want to know the games that were flooding the market, they were all Atari. It was all Atari games out there that were
Boppin' or whatever it was called,
had to be buried in a landfill because there was too much of them.
Kool-Aid for Atari 26 is great. To be honest, I played the Intellivision version once or twice. I think maybe the Atari version. I don't know. It's
all Kool-Aid and Thirsties to me.
You got to get the ingredients and stop the thirsties. It's what it is. I don't like to talk crap.
There were a couple of McDonald's games on the NES or the Genesis or something like that. Wasn't there like a McDonald's?
Yeah, and then Burger King with Sneaking and
for the 360,
and all that. Yep. Big bumping. All he did was sneak up on people and present them with a Whopper and then walk. It was like the creepiest game ever. It made and you got points for it. It was like so. Oh, is it totally okay?
Kids, that was it. Atari creeped down at Big Kids on the NES.
I'll check it out.
Got a cult following, man. People love that game.
Yeah,
Big Kids. Okay.
Cool Spot was another one.
Well, it takes like a loose affiliation.
That was on Genesis, I think,
with McDonald's.
Cool Spot.
The trick to a game like that is not to make it so.
Love it. There's another one. 7-Up.
So slavishly devoted to the
finger
brand, kind of
gaming.
Make it interesting.
But
they got a Famicom Ronald McDonald game.
The market just got flooded. There were logistical problems on getting things from point A to point B. There were tons of like various different variations on consoles. There was tons
Tommy did do the
of
music.
the lack of quality control on everything. ET was expected to be a much, much bigger seller than it was, so they overproduced the carts by a large amount, which is why so many of them ended up in landfill. That was just kind of like that was kind of like one of the last straws that broke the proverbial camel's back.
That was a
but
symbol.
It wasn't. It was a symptom of a much, much, much larger problem.
ET was supposed to be their grand slam, and it turned into a dud. So at the time, as everything was crashing, so I think ET gets mislabeled as this big, and Atari spent $20 million for that license. So you can say like they just wasted a whole bunch of money for this. But to be fair, they spent $20 million to give to Steven Spielberg, and that's not really Atari's issue. That was Steve Ross, the head of Warner Brothers, who Warner Communications, and that's what he did to get people to his label. If you look at any of the names of people who are on like Warner Records or Elektra or Asylum or all of these great record labels that were under Warner, I mean, he wined and dined all of these celebrities: Led Zeppelin, Queen, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Foreigner, Madonna, Prince, to get them to come over to Warner. So the hottest young director in Hollywood, Steven Spielberg, who just made Jaws and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, or not yet. I think it was just Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And E.T. You're gonna give him
You knew it was coming, man.
I did not know it was coming. I forgot about it.
You knew it was coming.
Sorry.
You're going to wine and dine the man and pay him so that you can get him on board. Because then what's Steven Spielberg going to give you? He's going to let you be the distributor for the Goonies. He's going to give you The Color Purple. He's going to give you Joe versus the Volcano. Not all of his best stuff, but it's still
it was a win for Joe Warner. Versus the Volcano is amazing.
I like it. It was not the blockbuster I think that Warner wanted.
So, Goonies is probably one of my favorite movies, and Goonies 2 is, I think, a really underrated NES game.
Yeah.
They did a Goonies port to Intellivision homebrew.
Did it?
It's called Goon Enough.
That's a great name. I love it.
And it's really good enough. It does pretty good. It's almost like the Intellivision where they just ported the Goonies game as best they could to the Intellivision.
Was it the first one or the second one that they ported? Because the first one was only on Famicom and never made it to the States. The second one actually made it to the U.S.
Yeah, I think it's probably the first one, because there was a Goonies that was on like the Atari 800, I think. So that seems like would be a prime candidate for Intellivision if they do a port of that.
Yeah. Speaking of ports and not ports at all, that was a terrible transition, but
yeah,
I wanted to throw in a little promo piece for our friend of the channel, the Chrono show. Last year I did a spot with them with if everybody's ever seen the movie The Christmas Story with the kid that wants the BB gun for, I'm sure everyone that's knows any Christmas movies at least heard of it or seen TNT run it.
Don't watch it, you'll shoot your eye out.
You'll shoot your eye out. Yeah. So the little kid that eats the mashed potatoes, like who's mommy's little piggy and eats Randy, that's Ian Petrella. Well, they just did a brand new movie called The Christmas Story Christmas, where they're all grown up, and every one of the original cast that's still alive is in this movie. Where now Ralphie has to, go home and have the perfect Christmas with his family, and it's now the 70s instead of the 40s or whatever it was before. So, anyways, last year I was on a panel with the Chrono Show, our Gamers Realm. I think he changed it to Chrono Show now, but if you haven't subscribed, please check it out. So I'm going to just run this little promo because I won't show you the whole thing because he still has the actual mashed potato eating contest up so you could watch it. So please watch it so he gets the views. But this was just a little bit of what happened. And I'm going to be back on this year on the 23rd in another mashed potato eating contest because I won last year. And it was judged by Ian Petrella that plays Randy. So now with this new movie coming out, we're going to talk to him again and interview him. And this is the Chrono Show Here's a little taste.
I made my decision, and I think that I have to go with DJ Game Studios for the win.
Oh, the winner!
Energy and the giggling, definitely. So there you go. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, anyways, yeah. So I thought, please check out and go subscribe or save the date, hit the notification, whatever, to the Chrono show, because I will be joining them with another interview with Ian Petrella, who plays Randy on the original Christmas Story and in the brand new Christmas Story Christmas. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And I will be trying to hold my championship ring of the potato eating master, if possible, again on the 23rd December.
Go have some turkey leftovers, some turkey hash, some turkey stuffing, some Chinese turkey. Yeah.
This.
All the turkey.
Yeah.
But before we finish up with our discussion, I think now might be a good time to do the giveaway. So far, let me pull us up in here so people
before we go, is there anyone else who is hopped on the show in the last hour who wants to be added to the giveaway?
So the last ones that we added besides Silly Club members was I got to add Skull and Andy. I did put StashNet on there. I saw.
Yeah, StashNet came in a little earlier. There she is.
So yeah, so I got that on there just in case. If there's anyone else that wants to participate, this is for the T-shirt. I have T-shirt size. Let me show you the T-shirt. I guess that'd be fair. Let me.
Yeah, put yourself.
So basically, it's going to be an Amico Forever branded T-shirt with the good old wood grain sitting there, looking all nice and wood grainy, with all three of the logos there, the Amico Forever logo. The T-shirt sizes I have, just so you know, for this giveaway, there'll be others, but is 2X. Regular XL and large. So I have those three sizes. So depending on if you want to get in on this, once again, I will need your shipping address. So if you're not cool with that, it's okay if you don't want to be in that contest. But please. Okay, so like I got a couple more that I got to put in here right now. So let's see. Let me share.
You might want to put CT in there as well. I put a couple of them in private chat that I think he looked at. Laser Active Guy and Amico Bro. I think CT may want to be in there. 1 inch biceps. I'll just start typing these.
All right. There it is. Okay. We said 1 inch. Oops.
I'm putting them all in our own personal chat here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've told him to stop putting them in because he's watering down your chances, guys. So I'm sorry.
CT got that.
And Debris Hauler.
Debris Hauler.
And you can put Mike Garcia alt account number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're welcome.
Well, okay.
Yeah, get Mike Garcia.
Well, Mike is in there. He's part of the Silly Club, so he's automatically in there. Let's see. Debris Atari 1 inch 7 year.
Once we run out of numbers, we're going to start putting variations on Mike Garcia. We'll have it combined underscore, camel case, whatever it takes. It's fine.
All right. So I think
favoritism, sir. We can't be bribed, sir.
He says, "I wish I had all the accounts." So I think I have everybody in here.
You have to do one for the porn bot. That's a good one.
Well, the porn bot wins. Trying to make Scepter Sever. Did you want to be in this as well, or no?
I haven't heard Scepter say anything or anybody say put Scepter in, so I wasn't really sure if he wanted in or not.
If he wins, we'll spin again. I'll pop it in unless he says no.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scepter wants in.
Okay, so I got him in there. So I think going once, going twice.
Fastback, do you want in?
Fastback's already in as a Silly Club member.
Okay.
All Silly Club members are automatically in, whether they're in or not, or whether they want to be or not.
Okay.
Amused one. Okay, we got one more.
Amused one.
All right.
So we got a decent amount in here.
Yeah, put Panda in there if he's not in there.
You talking about Panda Sub 2000?
Yeah, or a Man Machine, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Or Man Machine.
But not Octane.
Yeah, no. Never Octane. Or Disco.
Don't want to see what he does with that shirt.
Yeah, I don't really... I don't want my logo on anything that the Octane might touch. Let's just be fair there.
Oh, boy. Do I have 68 Camaro in? Let me see.
I don't know.
I can't read at these angles.
There's so many.
I know. I'm like, hold on. Let me just see if I can find it in here.
I don't see him.
Yeah, I don't think he's in there. Let me add him.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Final call. Going
Do a
once.
final call.
Going twice.
Once. Twice.
Right. Time to give the wheel a spin, sir.
All right. So we are going to spin for the T-shirt. Oh, my goodness. Why is people trying to... It's too late to be calling and texting.
We got Laser Active. Guys, calm down. We got Laser Active guy in there. He's in there.
Wait, do we have him in there? Hold on. Maybe we don't.
I told you to put him in there like ages ago. Do you not have him in there?
I'm checking. I'm trying to see it on...
They've said it like 5 times, and I put it in
I don't
see. I don't see.
Then we got to put him in.
You're about to invalidate this whole wheel.
He wasn't on the list that you sent.
It was on the list. He was the first guy on the list I sent you.
All right. Just for that, I'm taking you off.
That's fine. It wasn't on there to begin with.
Wait, so Laser Active guy's here. Just want to make sure he's not in there twice, because I thought I did put him in there. All right, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, guys, here we go. And spinning.
Survey says...
Oh!
Original Next Level Gaming!
Oh, Thomas, I was pulling for you.
I feel like we might ought to spin that again, because he pops up on the show fairly regularly.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to have pitchforks.
Should we do another?
I feel like we need to do
I'll
another.
hook up Mike at a different time. We're gonna
Even Fastback is saying it's rigged.
Yeah. Okay, so we remove the next level gaming. Okay.
Yeah, everybody's saying rigged.
So if I removed next level gaming, it would have landed on Thomas Bryant. It refixed. So we all in agreement that Thomas has it.
I'm fine with Thomas getting it.
Yes.
That's
who it was going to hit if it didn't hit that. And I apologize. I was going to try to show people that have been on the panel off. And
this chat is hot. They really want John Riggs on there. So, man.
Yeah, Thomas, what a good dude. And, and it couldn't go to a better person. We'll have way more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he says that he has an Amico. Yeah, we axed that right away. I'm sorry, guys. I thought I took all the panel guys off. So Thomas Bryant, get a hold. You got me on plenty of platforms. Just hit me up with your shipping address and what size T-shirt I got. I got large, extra large, and 2X large, and then we'll do. So I think what we're gonna do next, so that we'll take Thomas off, and next I think we're going to do. Yeah, no one gets a shirt if they already have an Amico. I like that.
That is a good rule.
So next, let's keep the same since you guys were so good with that. Let's give this mug away.
Okay.
Let's give this mug away with the remainder.
We should probably take Thomas off because he's already won.
No, if it goes with Thomas, we'll
yeah, we can, but I can remove him actually. So let's. I
just want to make sure the same person doesn't.
Oh well, whatever. If it won't, yeah, here we spun again. We'll get it. This is our first time. And live in the moment.
Nice. There we
Nice.
go.
Wow, I feel good giving stuff away. We gave away a
Congratulations.
shirt and a mug. Man, this is a nice mug too. It really is for your morning coffee, tea, or
Pay
hot
this up
cocoa.
to you. These items don't exist, much like the PS5 does not exist for you and only you.
So live in
We'll
the
be
moment.
photoshopping the mug. Enjoying my mug.
Probably.
Well, congratulations to Thomas
Yeah.
Bryant and Live in the Moment.
Absolutely.
First little giveaway of many.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot more, guys. I'm gonna try to get some more stuff ordered.
Most
soon
of
as
that
I
stuff
can.
will go to Mike over at Original Next Level Gaming, but you know, it'll be fun to spin.
Or one day, randomly, it might
Fastback may get a
everything
kickback.
gets replaced with an alt of Mike Garcia.
Yeah.
You don't know. Anything can happen.
It seems like the mugs are popular. I'm gonna do more mugs in the next couple weeks too. So I'm gonna try to get some more because it's just something different, than a t-shirt. So let me try to do some more mugs for anyone that missed this one because it's it goes quick and
Yes. We'll also get like a rad
Woo!
word salad shirt as well as like earphones. So like you can just plug them in when I'm monologuing. It'll be good.
You said ear salad shirts.
Ear salad, word salad.
Oh, word salad. Well, it's
Ear
ear
salad,
salad to the
word
person
salad.
that's
Whatever
listening to the word
works.
salad.
Fine.
But
You guys want ear
eventually we
salad
will
shirts?
get
Up
some
to you.
actual Intellivision stuff once we hear some good news from Intellivision and Amico's into the.
I had those physical
shipping
games I can get
phase.
to you too.
Yeah.
As well.
I think
You remember
I'm-
I got those extras?
I think it makes sense to hold off on that stuff until after word
That's true.
has gone
That's
out.
true. I was
Yeah,
about to say,
absolutely.
They're still
It's-
around. I know exactly where they're at. So, well, my wife does.
Oh,
I think she boxed those up and moved those to another location in my house. Which, at least, it's not like my mother, where every time she put something away for me, I never found it again. I just assumed to get thrown out.
Raptor Jaco Young says a John Alvarado mustache shirt. Yeah, we are going late. Yeah, congratulations, but we just ripped that shirt right from under you, Mike. So if you didn't notice, you
Did.
you had you won, but you didn't win because there
That's
would have been
right.
a riot. There would have been a riot, Mike. That's all we're saying.
This was a test. Yeah, this was a test spin. You're a tester. You know how it goes.
Yes. Yeah, this was our test. There'll be more stuff next week. I'll see if I can dig up some other stuff and what I have here. I have a couple ideas of some giveaways. It'll be pretty funny. Does anybody like flamingos?
No,
Probably not.
no.
Well, then never mind. Then I don't have any good ideas at all. So
There has
live in
been
the moment.
anti-flamingo
And
since
Thomas,
we
hit
replaced
me
them with
up.
one.
Hit me up on Twitter. That's probably the best way to just kind of be pretty. Or if you guys have me on Facebook, hit me up on Facebook and just send me where you want me to ship those two items. But congrats, you guys are awesome. And there'll be please not the flamingo thong. Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking of, man. Oh.
Ew. Tagline being only used once. Ew.
The flamingos is a good idea. But anyways, yeah, so like back to now, as far as that crash, I don't personally think it could happen as bad as it did before, where people are going to be going out of business. Because I think the big three, it would take, they just went through a pandemic and are still, they have so much. And even if they're losing stuff on consoles and things like that, I don't think there's a way anytime soon that they're going to fail to the point of bankruptcy or shutting down their company, But what are you guys' thoughts on the current crash?
Even if any of the current players do leave the industry, go bankrupt, move on to something else, they do a Konami and just decide, you know what, we are into gambling. That's so much cooler for us. I think the industry is robust enough and established enough, and gaming is established enough that it will not go away. It will change. It will go through ebbs and peaks and valleys, but I think I think we're in it for the long haul. I think it's going to shift and change quite a bit, but it's not going
I
I
mean,
think
anywhere.
that's all it really can do now. Is
Could we
kind
have
of
a could we have a
shift and change,
console?
right?
Could we have a console crash? Yeah. Will we have a video game market crash? No.
Yeah.
We may have a console
by
as
that I
future.
mean consoles could flop or just go the way of extinction because the platform and the medium has changed, right? Now that you have Apple Arcade, now that you have Game Pass trying to migrate itself to different markets, you've got PlayStation starting to try to dip their toe into that market. You've got these things popping up on more and more different platforms where they're more ecosystems. They're not necessarily consoles anymore. Especially since
I
things
agree
have gotten
that.
more digital. So
I agree with that right there. By the
I
way,
don't disagree with that at all.
Mhm.
If Konami doesn't want to do anything with things like Contra,
Ugh.
Castlevania, all the Hudson Soft IPs,
all the Hudson Soft stuff. There's so damn much of that.
I'm more concerned about like Contra and Castlevania personally. Those are the two that stand out to me from there.
Yeah, I'm waiting on that
Reservoir.
too.
I know a lot of the TurboGrafx people are huge into Hudson stuff.
Yep.
But my experience with Hudson Soft is Adventure Island, and
But you played on NES.
NES.
I
You got to
enjoyed
play it on an actual Hudson console, NEC Hudson console.
the Hudson Bay's company console. It's classic. It's fur covered.
No,
I
it
enjoyed
It just looks like a bee.
Yeah. With some of these franchises and stuff, something like Castlevania, I'm very attached to it. It's something that goes back and has a big, wonderful, flushed out storyline. But Bloodstained was fantastic. That fit.
Bloodstained's a great game. I love that game.
That fit what I think a lot of people wanted. And I think in some of these cases, if Konami's not going to release a franchise, make something that's very, very close. Do a spiritual successor. We need to do more of those, and move that ball forward. We can let what's his name, Hudson Soft Professor. I forget his name.
Oh, I can't.
Professor Jones.
No, the little dude in Adventure Island.
See what I did there?
Yeah,
I knew who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
But I mean, I would like to see a reboot of some of those. I'd like to see a reboot of, like, say, Contra, like the original Contra. I'd like to see a reboot of Castlevania. It's been long enough since we've touched those.
Master Higgins,
yep.
thank you.
Higgins, that's it. That I feel like you could reboot those safely, if you had the license to do it, right? I think they're kind of right, especially Contra's kind of ripe for that, because the last game just left such a bad taste in everybody's mouth. It was just kind of a shameless cash in on
Take care, Creep.
an otherwise really stellar IP that has at least
Night Creeper.
6 or 7 amazing games, minimum to it. Between the Game Boy, Genesis, Super Nintendo, NES, and even some early PlayStation entries. It's got a lot of good game history there. And to do it the way they did it on the last one, it looked like a generic isometric shooter, and that's not what you needed out of Contra. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to see. Yeah, I would love to see just a lot of the Hudson Soft stuff. That's just like. Now I'm trying to remember if Bomberman, they were bought out by someone else. Here it is. No, it's still, so Konami's still kind of messing. So that's obviously Konami.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, other than Bomberman, like, and then what? They're not really doing nothing. Like,
they did a Castlevania on mobile, but it got kind of shut down. Yeah, it eventually, I think it got shut down.
And this is still sealed. I just got this at like a sale price. But yeah, I don't know. I really think that they need. There's other. Oh my god! I mean, I'm not going to go into it because I've done it a million times. But if there's so many of those TurboGrafx licensed that are all NEC Hudson Soft that are just beautiful games, and I think yeah, maybe they do need to sell the IPs to someone to redo these games. Heck, they
Well,
could
they're
even
not
make some
doing
money
anything
if
with
they
it.
don't want to
At least
hassle
they
with
could
it.
license it to somebody.
Or license. That's exactly.
Yeah,
License.
that way they make some money off of it while they're right now they're just printing money on pachinko. Like Japan cannot get enough of pachinko for whatever reason. So
Well, it's intellectual property. I mean, we have to adjust those rights if we don't want companies to sit on it. But they feel it's in their best interest to not put anything out. And, Disney did that forever with the Disney Vault, and Nintendo did that with several of their licenses. You don't want to overexpose them. And, if people have to wait 15 years for it, so be it. Maybe Konami's playing a long game. I don't know what they're up to, but yeah, it is kind of disappointing that some of these beloved franchises are locked away by holdings companies or companies that are just not as interested in seeing them out and about now.
Well, I
So
think
spiritual successors.
Yeah. I think we had a lot to talk about today. We had an hour and a half in. We did some giveaways. We saw me eat not really eat mashed potatoes. We saw the aftermath, and I'm going to win again this year. So make sure you check that out. Nick, what do you have coming up on all 10 of your channels?
I have 2 channels, sir. I finished up Luigi's Mansion last night, Luigi's Mansion 3. That was a fun and frustrating ride towards the end. Last couple bosses were kind of frustrating. The pirate shark boss was epic. That's totally worth getting to that part in the game for alone. It was a fantastic boss fight. So I wrapped that up. I'm debating on what I'm going to do next on there. I may start doing some more edited content on there if I can make time for it. Right now, I've been kind of trying to enjoy my vacation and get a couple videos out. So I did manage to get a video out on Monday on the very first light gun.
That's cool.
I thought that was a really great video. I don't know how many people really took to that one, but I
took to it.
I know you did because me and you had
I
talked
haven't
about
watched
that
it. I haven't watched
because
it.
you had something on it already. But I worked really hard on that one, and I thought that one came out well. And then I did one on the Satellaview, which was a satellite gaming attachment for the Super Famicom that came on my Gaming Oddity. So that one dropped today. I'll probably put out move over my N64 video on Friday to kind of follow up because I'm working on a Magnavox Odyssey 2 video. I just finished the voice work on that today. So I started kind of assembling that together. So I'm going to do a little bit of work on that this week while I try to figure out what I'm going to do for next week's scripts.
Did you use the voice to do the voice work?
I did not use the voice to do the voice work because the voice only handled 16 by 9, I think, or 16 by 7 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So much for original hardware. You disappointed.
Yeah, it was freaking just. It was the original like the type and speak game was rough,
painful. Tech wasn't there yet.
Not quite there yet. It did beat the Intellivision, though. I was kind of surprised when I ran into that. I'm like, wow, this predates IntelliVoice. That's kind of dope.
Nothing beats the Intellivision.
This beat it to market.
That's part of your contract, sir.
Beat it to market by a couple of years. Just saying.
Okay.
So I'm going to be working on that somewhat tomorrow and probably a little bit over the weekend while I work on a couple other things to get those out. But yeah, that's all kind of tracking along. I wouldn't mind doing another stream this week, but it kind of depends on what kind of time I have. I'm trying to wrap up a couple things and make sure I spend a lot of time with my wife this week. I have a new cat, so I've got to like randomly pull it out from under the furniture and make sure it knows it's okay to be in the house. It's a new cat. They do these things.
We're talking about cat. Okay.
The other day, I had a emulator box. I pulled up a couple Odyssey games. I was playing. I forgot what I was playing. Pickaxe Pete was in there, and a couple other ones. Yeah, no, you're right though. The V, there was a good voice on there. I'll give you that. The Texas Instruments was the. My neighbor had that, so that's where I played Munchman. Because obviously Pac-Man was all the craze, and the only thing they had was Munchman. I was like, hey, I'll play something. I'll play something I can do at my home.
They made the chips and speak and spell, so
yeah,
it's right up their alley.
But anyways, yeah, I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. We'll do some more giveaways. So don't be sad. There'll be a lot more giveaways coming up. And I thank you for the support. If you haven't joined the Silly Club, hit the join button down there. And please subscribe to these two amazing gentlemen's channels because they have some great stuff. And now I got to check out that light gun video because I really want to see.
I am going to link one video here because it was relevant to the topic we have tonight.
Yeah, you have a few that were relevant for.
Yeah, you have some stuff on the crash.
Nintendo and the crash, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the one for the crash in there. That's the link for the one on the game crash. The one on Nintendo was a little
CT. No, we didn't have any official update on Amico release or anything yet. Hopefully we'll have. I hope to hear something soon, but nothing yet, and no date as of yet.
So there are two fairly relevant videos, one specifically on the crash, which is the first one that I linked, and the second one is on Nintendo kind of salvaging the video game industry, at least in the States, and kind of what they did to kind of shore things up and get consumer confidence back in the market as people were kind of coming back in. There's also plenty of crazy stuff in there that Atari's put out that we didn't even talk about. That also was some of their stuff, the Atari Mind Link, which was just kind of like a whole new level of ridiculousness for them that they were developing.
It works.
It sort of.
It works.
Sort of.
And there's links are in there.
Maybe it was misleading advertising, but it works.
But there's a lot of goofy stuff.
If you can scrunch your forehead, it works.
I'll even throw a link to like my Atari
you go like
video
this. You can run.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm jumping. No, I'm not. I'm jumping. No,
if you can get very angry and sweaty, it's fantastic way to game.
There's the Atari Rise and Fall video as well, if you guys are interested in that. That's kind of a handful of stuff that's now on my Geek Historian channel. With new stuff coming in pretty much weekly when I can. Sometimes things are busy and I can't always get stuff out, but I try to do 2 videos a week. Lately it's been 3. That'll probably slow down because I'm running out of content to move over. And I'm having to like just build the longer format content, which usually takes a couple weeks to do it properly, particularly when it's on a single topic. I'm getting faster, but there's only so much I can do with time. So I miss my chronic enemy on my channel. So
how much longer will I be
also well.
Let's see if I can get this to.
I'm sorry, what was that, TJC?
So they want to know how much longer I'll be testing. I'm like, well, I still have the unit. I could say that. There's some more stuff, but here you go. Look at that. Look at it in all its glory. It's a real thing. It's real.
It's a sticker.
Yeah, I still have it. How much longer that I can't say. But I'll share anything when I can. I'll let you. Yes, testing forever. That was a good one.
We do everything forever around here. We don't do half measures, sir. We do everything forever.
Hello, Phil. I didn't say nothing. Wow, I didn't know this was a direct line to you. All right, man. Yeah, we got to end it, guys. All right, so thanks.
That thing's a straight up phone now. No wonder.
Oh yeah, it's phone built right in it. There is not a phone built right in it.
I didn't screw anything up this time. So.
You urge him to make the Amico nuclear powered, and yes, I'm serious.
You know what? I'm not gonna get into here, but
each of us is carrying an unlicensed nuclear accelerator in his hand.
Contrary to popular opinion.
Well, thanks everyone. We will
That's our
see
subject for next week's show.
Yeah, next week we will get into that, and we'll get into the eyebrow controller.
Hashtag Geeks with Cash canceled.
Thanks for staying with us, everybody.
Take care. It was a great time. We'll see you next week.